am compelled by Schlock.
What is up, everybody? We have a Schlockbuster special for you today. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. With me is Chris Anonymous, and we are your hosts for our little live show. We're having some sound issues, but hey, we are a schlocky show, and we have to power through it, I guess. How are you doing, Chris?
Locked on, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
We're schlocked on. I'm doing great. Like this is something really different for us. It's something really weird. We normally don't do movies that have recently come out. We've done it a couple of times, but our bread and butter is going through Tubi, through all of the free movies that they have there, and finding older fare, I guess, more culty movies, and talking about them. But Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, has a very interesting pedigree to it in that it's directed by Sam Raimi, who we haven't talked about on the show yet, but he is maybe one of the greatest schlock directors, having done the Evil Dead series and Army of Darkness. And
he's one of the schlock fathers. Yeah, definitely one of the schlock fathers.
Ooh. Schlockfather. I love that. And he directed the original Spider-Man trilogy up in the early 2000s. And those are kind of important movies in my opinion, because they really sort of set the template of what superhero movies would become later. So it's really cool to see him return to form. It's cool to see him get some material that's supposed to be weird and sort of lends itself to his unique style. So we know that the movie, it just came out this past Friday on May 6th, 5th, one of those
6th.
days.
Yeah, one of those
on
days.
May 6th. So it's still in theaters. People are still seeing it. So we generally spoil everything. However, this time we are going to start with a spoiler-free review. Each of us will give our opinions on it, and then we'll do kind of a deep dive onto it. We're going to go probably a little bit longer than we normally go.
So we're going to do a small little segment of not spoiler, and then we're going to warn you, and then we're going to spoil everything. But before we get any further, like, subscribe, comment, let us know. You can follow us on Twitter at Schlock Show. You can subscribe. You can go to our website. We might be doing more of these in the summertime, depending. You know, it's not going to be our normal thing, but every once in a while, a little schlock bluster.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Comment on it, like, subscribe, like you said. Let us know what you think, and if you like more things like this. So anyway, Chris, we talking before the show. I asked you if you like it. That's kind of how we always start our conversations in a way. Like I say, did you like this? And Chris, you said that you liked it.
I didn't love it.
And I replied, well, I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. And so we have like a kind of an interesting combination of feelings on here. So Chris, do you want to give your spoiler-free review, your overall impression of the movie?
You know, it's a spoiler-free review is kind of hard because there's things in WandaVision I'd like to touch base on. There's things from previous movies. It's not the movie I thought it was going to be at all. And I can't say that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something I have to figure out myself. So, you know, in a week, I might totally change my opinion about this movie because it's one of those movies that left me like, oh, that's not what I expected at all. Yeah. So now I have to wrap my head around what it really is and judge it for that, because it's not fair to the movie to demand that it be what I thought it was going to be and or what I wanted it to be. To some degree, as a fan, what you want it to be, but that's neither here nor there. Things there was lots of fun parts, but I don't know. It's really hard to talk about without spoilers. What what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It is hard to talk about without spoilers. Like we are like such spoiler heavy people because we want to get into like sort of the screenwriting aspect and the philosophy aspect and like what it's all about. But so, like I said, my initial thought is that I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. And the reason I didn't hate it is kind of the same reasons that you gave. Like it is a fun movie. You know, the acting is good. I like the characters. Benedict Cumberbatch, like he does a great job. I like the visuals, the action. I like the space, you know, that these movies take place in. And so overall, like it is like a good experience, right? To go to and like just sort of sit in your chair and have fun for a little over 2 hours, I think.
I guess.
However,
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
However, as you said, it's definitely not the movie that I expected. And I think that there's a little bit of a problem there. So the movie I expected and that I feel like it advertised itself as is a sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't think it's a spoiler to say in Spider-Man No Way Home, like it deals with opening the multiverse. I mean, that's
yes.
in the trailers.
I thought it was a sequel to No Way Home.
And it's not. It's a sequel. It's a near direct sequel to WandaVision.
Yeah, it feels like the climax of WandaVision.
And if you haven't seen either, I don't think that spoils that at all. But so if you haven't seen this movie yet, kind of change your mindset going into it, viewing it in that way. It's a sequel to WandaVision. It's not a sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home. In fact, that movie plays very little into this movie, really. One of the things that I kept feeling as I was watching the movie, so talking about Sam Raimi and how he kind of set the standard for superhero movies in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. So I think Spider-Man 1 was good. Spider-Man 2, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Yeah, I think it's one of the best superheroes ever made.
Top 5 superhero movies ever made. Yeah.
But then we have Spider-Man 3, which was a real dud in a way, kind of a letdown.
I liked it more than most people, but yeah, it still was.
Well, and that kind of got Sam Raimi off from doing superhero movies. He kind of put a bad taste in his mouth. And so it took him a very long time to return to doing superhero movies. Yeah. And so I think that this movie actually probably suffers from a lot of the same problems that movie did. Scott Derrickson, who directed the original Doctor Strange movie, he actually left this movie because of I think creative differences. And so right there, we see that there's probably studio interference happening, which is what happened with Spider-Man 3. Sam Raimi wanted to tell a specific story and they said, no, you got to put Venom in there. And so it just became cluttered and there's just too much going on and too many things to try and wrap up to where a lot of things in the movie didn't get their proper amount of time. And I feel like the exact same thing happened with this movie, to where the movie looks like a series of business decisions rather than like a cohesive vision from a single creative team.
And the further I got into the movie, the more I felt Sam Raimi's presence.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, I really, really enjoyed the last 45 minutes. Before that, I didn't really feel a lot of Sam Raimi's touch. A little here and there, some great cameos. Yeah.
We'll hopefully talk about it a little bit later. But through the whole movie, the thing that kept going through my mind was this movie is suffering from an and then problem. And that's like a screenwriting thing that I've heard from the South Park guys. They say that when you're writing a story, it needs to go, you connect scenes by going but and therefore. It's all cause and effect. This happens, therefore this happens. But this happens and as a complication, therefore this has to happen. Whereas bad screenwriting has and then connecting scenes. This happens and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens. And I feel like there were a lot of and then things going on in this movie that seemed to kind of drag the whole thing down. There is like, I can see the story in there that they wanted to tell, but they added a lot of and thens in there, and that really dragged the whole thing down.
You know, it's interesting too. I think that's an inherent problem with a multiverse story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any way to totally escape the and then, because part of the point of a multiverse is to shatter some cause and effect.
Well, I'll disagree with that when we get into the spoiler section.
Yes,
because there are other multiverse properties out there that have done very well with story structure. So the last thing I'll say about it is the character America Chavez. Open LGBTQ character. They have that in the movie. I am actually very surprised with all of the political stuff that's going on with Disney right now, that they would double down on that and release it. It seems like an odd time to do that. A weird business decision. I think it will look different once we look at this movie in retrospect, and void of the politically what's going on around it, but given like the Disney leaks and the groomer agenda that people are saying, it seems like for this movie that would be a really good way for people who are on that side of the political spectrum to say, see, are we lying? It's right here. And so I'm really surprised they left it in, and I thought maybe they would have changed some things around or edited it differently like they do in other countries. So
they refused to edit some things out in China, so it's not getting released there. So they're taking a loss at that.
Yeah, there are I think it's like the fourth or fifth movie they've done where they didn't get a release in China. However, so they are in the Middle East, they're doing a similar thing. However, they have made some edits for I can't remember what the country is. The EMA, is that what it's called? Anyway, they've made some edit. It's always interesting.
It's always interesting to for different reasons and different things different countries want taken out. That's always fascinating. What version of the movie did you see? I have no idea. They were talking about how they wanted to take out shots of the Statue of Liberty in No Way Home.
Yeah. And apparently with this movie, there's a 2 hour and 40-minute version of it that we didn't see. I'm sure we'll see it at some point in time. They're going to release it all so they can make more money. Right. And that's the big thing. In the end, it's all about making money, right? What do we got to do to make money here? What do we got to do to make money here? If we lose enough money in a certain area, then we'll start thinking about changing what we do. Then that's just business, and that's how businesses work.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, people change. Just the whole idea of screening movies to they change them for a million different reasons. These two characters, their chemistry didn't work. We need to add a scene or cut a scene, or that whole thing's very interesting, but getting a little off topic. So
like I said, to bring it back around, it seems like a series of business decisions more than a single creative vision to me. So loop it back around to the review of the actual movie.
Yeah.
So
I'm ready to
spoiler. Yeah. All right. If you haven't seen this movie, if you haven't seen WandaVision or Loki or What If, or if you just don't like having movies spoiled because we might spoil anything, get the hell out of here. All right.
We are about to spoil. I mean, you ain't been spoiled.
So, all right. Very first spoiler that I want to bring up. I want to get it off the table right now. Can we please stop killing Patrick Stewart as Professor X? Please. Man.
Oh, I loved that they had his yellow scooter.
Oh man, in the theater, I sit next to my girlfriend. He comes in, they play the little da-na-na-na-na-na-na. I'm like,
right?
Like,
well, and I had already been like fanboying because I loved the Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. I thought that's perfect casting. Who knows if he'll play it when they do a movie because it's multiverse. So you can have that this whole movie felt like a get out of jail free card for future Marvel for casting and recasting and retconning. This felt like we're going to have our cake and we're going to eat it too, and it's with a little character called America. Yeah, and power to them, because I mean this is a giant beast that is a business, and actors age and actors have drama and directors fall out, and you need something that's going to be able to at least somewhat rein it in, and that's what the multiverse is, and that's what the character America is. Right. Well, and I think a big problem that they have, one, with the multiverse thing, you're right, it's a get out of jail free card, but it's kind of something that makes it so that consequences maybe don't matter. Correct. Because here's something that I kept thinking throughout this whole movie. They go back and forth between saying multiverse and saying infinite multiverse. So here's the philosopher in me that, so an infinite multiverse, I think, is probably logically not sustainable, because so if you have a universe where an infinite number of things can happen, that means you start getting into universes where there aren't infinite universes, right? Like you have to start going where like the laws of physics work backwards, time is backwards, and well, and then you have the mundane of like, I got a regular latte, I got a fat-free latte, I got a soy latte, right? Where that's the only difference in the entire universe, is that one trivial detail, right? And if there are 5 million choices in any given second, then how could you wade through any of these multiverses to have any kind of, I mean, to filter them out to get to the one that you need to get to would be almost impossible. Well, and here's the thing that's interesting. You say like 5 million choices in 1 second. So this kind of goes into talking about Loki. And this is where I think some of the waters get muddy. The TV series Loki. This is where the waters I have not seen yet. Muddy. Well, so Loki deals with time. And I don't know if they're going to make this distinction. That story deals with the timeline and different branches in time. A multiverse, on the other hand, and we see it in the Multiverse of Madness, it's going through places where not only is the timeline different, but like people are like made of paint. They're cartoons, right? Like the physics are different. So it's not a different timeline. It's a wholly different universe. And each of those universes would have its own branching time. Exactly. So when you deal with a timeline, it's not infinite. A timeline is not infinite, because so while it might have a number of choices in it that seem infinite to us, because the number is just like so huge, it's unfathomable to us. If it lays within like laws of physics and things like that, it's eventually there is a certain amount that it can eventually go to. Right. But multiverse, man, yeah, you can get into places where people are 2-dimensional and well, and the other thing is why are you changing when you go through that multiverse? Like the whole sequence, it's fun, it's funny, but like you've got to suspend a lot of disbelief, because once you went in that water thing, or once you went into the paint thing, your human body from this universe would not survive that. Right. Like, unless you're in some kind of magical bubble that when she does her power to teleport through dimensions and multiverses, that you're intact and your body changes and you're still alive. that's part of the fun. It's comic booky, so you have to go with it.
Right. Well, and the thing is that I'm for this being a movie called In the Multiverse of Madness, I'm actually like really surprised at the fact that we really don't go through a lot of verses.
Too.
Right. We smash through a bunch of them, but then we just more or less stay in two, three, because he goes into the one that's been destroyed.
The one that's been destroyed, the one where the Illuminati's at,
futuristic,
and then the real one,
616,
right? So three,
and then we go into places that are like the weird interdimensional spaces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of thought so. I sort of mentioned it in the spoiler-free section. So, have you watched Doctor Who or Rick and Morty?
A lot of Rick and Morty, some Doctor Who.
So Rick and Morty, they do really well with the whole multiverse, multi-dimensional idea, and they do really solid stories because they go on a very specific formula called the Dan Harmon story circle.
Right.
And so they handle this multiverse concept really well. And I was really hoping to see stuff like that. Like in Rick and Morty, they're like running away from the Council of Ricks, and they run into like a living room where like these people are sitting on chairs on their phones ordering pizza, and then they go into the next dimension and it's like these pizzas sitting on phones ordering people, and like it just gets super nuts. And there's some things that like work better because it's a cartoon, but they go there and they like the multiverse is nuts. So
and the idea of calling it madness, well, let's just talk about what the story is, which here's one other spoiler. Scarlet Witch is the bad guy.
Yeah.
From the trailers and from everything else, you think she's going to come in and kind of team up with them to help deal with whatever, which shattered multiverses are encroaching on 616 because of No Way Home. That's what you're led to believe, which it's fun. It's fun to pull the rug out and think, oh, you thought from the trailer that she was on her side, but she's really the bad guy. And it totally changes the end of WandaVision, where you think she's at peace and all this thing. But that's just a ruse, because she's actually already been mentally warped by the Darkhold, right? And that's all just an illusion.
At the end of WandaVision, she is like scrolling through the Darkhold, and we know that like you can't look at it without it changing you.
Right. And so that's a fun thing, but it's also, this is a problem I had with the second Captain America movie. And I really liked it, the second Captain America movie. But when you make one of the good guys the bad guy, it's kind of like that have your cake and eat it too. Like, she's never going to go full on bad guy. And you're going to find a way to have them redeem themselves. And so when you're like, let's make your friend the bad guy today, it feels very exercisey, like a exercise in storytelling. And it feels very, not like a cheat, because I'm not opposed to having a good guy turn bad or a bad guy turn good. But it feels like you would never double down and really go there. And they do a little bit, because she does kill people. And it's interesting to think like, but she still redeems herself, right? She still destroys the real Darkhold.
Right. So there's some things there. I had a feeling that she was going to go bad because of the end of WandaVision and the trailer where she says, "No, I don't think that's fair. Do you?" I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would be so early in the movie. I thought it would be kind of like a later thing where it's like, we finally have to destroy the Darkhold. Like, I thought the Darkhold would more or less be like the MacGuffin of the movie. And at the end, maybe they'd have to destroy it. Sam Raimi and Evil Books, right? They're going to have to destroy it. And I thought maybe she'd be like, no, I want to keep it because it's the only way. And then maybe that sets up something different. But yeah, I think it's so weird. What I kept thinking was, the social contract, right? When you create a story, you create a social contract with your audience. And this is the problem with sequels, because when you do a sequel to a movie, you have to essentially break that social contract. The end of the first movie is happily ever after. And then when you start the second movie, it's, but wait, there's more, you're like, it's not happily ever after, like we led you to believe prior. And
Correct.
So with Wanda becoming a bad guy, like I don't know how that sits with me, because it makes me feel slightly betrayed from the previous movies where like, oh, she's a good guy now. She's gone through that redemption arc. And while I think that her motivations are actually like really good, really compelling motivations, right? A mother, right? A grieving mother, wouldn't she bend heaven and earth to gain her
wouldn't
children
she
back?
go try and be able to travel the multiverse to be with her children? Yeah,
right.
I get that.
I think that's a totally great through line and actually very compelling. However, it goes so dark with her that and this is something I've noticed in movies, like you can always have a bad guy turn good. However, there's a certain line that if they cross, they can still turn good, but they can't survive. Like they have to die. And that happens with her, but it kind of left me empty because we had so much buildup in WandaVision with Vision, right? Where the hell was Vision in this? Couldn't they have at least shown Paul Bettany in some way?
Why wouldn't she find the multiverse where she has Vision and her children?
Exactly.
Because she didn't have the children initially in WandaVision. Those came about. Initially, it was to be with Vision.
Right. Yeah. They like manifested themselves or something like that, but potentially because they exist in another multiverse. And so again, that's something that seemed, asking the question, like, why is it Vision here? And to me, that seems like a business decision, a contractual decision.
We couldn't book Paul Bettany.
Right. And so again, something that like kind of takes me out of the movie in a way.
Yeah. Again, if this were animated or if this were a comic book, you would have total freedom to do whatever you wanted, right?
Right.
So you could. Again, a problem I have with so a bad character going good feels different than a good character going bad and then coming back. And in some ways, I don't know, it feels worse in a group morality of watching movies together. Like it's harder to go there and then come back to just have them start bad and go good. Right. And then you have little cheats like when Professor X is in her mind and he's like, your alter ego, the Scarlet Witch, is taken over. I can help you. That's just a get out of jail free card.
Right.
Oh, okay. It wasn't really Wanda doing it. It was the Scarlet Witch, which is true. I'm not saying that's not true, but you put that there so that she could do all sorts of really dark stuff and kill people in this movie. And then you have her destroy the book at the end. And she warped out of there. She's not dead.
Right. Yeah, that's
right.
101. Even if you see someone like explode into dust, they're not dead.
So, so she's not dead. And it wasn't her who did all these horrible things. So it takes the stakes out. It takes the weight of the morality of choice. Right. And so it diminishes what you feel for her through line with her kids. Because if she's willing to kill and to destroy worlds and to steal power to be with children, that's really dark. But again, that's you can start to understand where she's coming from. Even if you don't agree with her actions, you can understand it. And then in a meta way, as an audience member, you're like, yeah, but it really doesn't count.
Right.
And that's a problem with multiverse.
Bringing all of this stuff up. So you said that you haven't seen What If, correct?
No. Yeah.
So here's a big problem with this movie. We've already seen it in What If. So one of the What If vignettes is about Doctor Strange, and he loses, I forget the character's name, Rachel McAdams' character. He loses her in the car crash that jacks his hands all up. And so he goes and becomes Doctor Strange, but then he tries to mess with time to get her back so she doesn't die in the car crash. He realizes he can't do it. And so he starts absorbing power from different creatures throughout the multiverse and gains more and more power until basically like he becomes evil, right? He becomes corrupted. He winds up destroying his own multiverse or his own universe or his own timeline. And I thought, and I know a lot of internet commentators thought that was the Doctor Strange we were going to see when he goes into the messed up universe.
Yeah, I thought the main antagonist was going to be the three-eyed evil Doctor Strange.
See, I thought, well, so at the end of the What If episode or the What If series, that Doctor Strange, he's kind of become enlightened because he's seen the error of his ways. He's like destroyed his universe. It's all his fault. He knows what's bad, the bad things that can happen when you try and change the past and you try and gain something that you don't rightly have. And he sort of redeems himself in that he's going to like spend eternity like being the watcher of this. I'm trying not to ruin all of What If for you, but he's basically like a guardian for the rest of his life, and that's like his penance essentially for destroying this universe. And I thought that we were going to see him, and he would be the one that gives our Doctor Strange the knowledge that he needs to defeat the problem, that he was going to be like the mentor in
Gotcha.
a way, the sage, and say, hey, look, man, you can't use the Darkhold. You can't go down that path. Here's the example of me and what happened to me. You need to get out of this and find a different way.
Right. So I guess it kind of gets there at the end where with the third eye, where he's getting the madness from using the Darkhold. But and again, it's not the movie it was, so I'm not faulting it for not being this, but at least a version that I thought it was going to be was that he was dealing with the shattered multiverse, and he's going through the rabbit hole, and that's causing him to go mad and to be darker. And then there's the version of him that's already been there and already corrupted. And so it's this through line of how deep can I go to stop him without becoming him?
Right.
The idea of madness. Just wasn't played out a whole lot, except for, I guess Scarlet Witch is kind of mad.
She goes mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she could have redeemed herself by being a guardian of the multiverse.
And maybe she will. Yeah.
And but like I said, we've seen that story already.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. It's such a parallel story.
I'm gonna harp on one more thing, and then I'm gonna start talking about what I loved in the movie, because I don't want it to seem like people think I hate this movie, because I don't. I really liked it, but I have a problem with America's arc with her power. It was just too fast and didn't feel earned. Like you had to tell her that to believe in herself and that she's been doing it all along, and then she can just suddenly do it.
Buddy, there's some big problems with America. Like that, the whole relationship, like I said, she is the MacGuffin. She is a very two-dimensional character. And I'll just throw the politics out there again. What would you expect? She's a diversity hire from 2011 Marvel. Like, she has not a lot of substance to her. And we see that in the movie. She's just a MacGuffin. She's just something to move the story along. And what we see in the very first scene, Doctor Strange betrays her, that universe's Doctor Strange betrays her, and she's leery of our Doctor Strange. Then they get captured, and he goes and talks to the Illuminati. They reunite, and she's like, I think this Strange is pretty good. Like, they don't really have any time together.
He hasn't earned her trust.
Right.
And she hasn't, the part of the thing of a character who doesn't know their powers yet is the learning montage. And again, you don't have to do that, but you have to show them slowly gleaning how to do it. Right.
Well, and this is what irritated me about their use of Professor Xavier because, one, they killed him, which is fine. It sort of has to happen for this movie. However, his greatest power, he's an Omega level mutant, so he should be able to stand up to the Scarlet Witch in some way, because Omega level means that he has the ability to like warp reality in some way. But his greatest superpower is mentorship. And, and so they could have
America's head. Yeah.
And unlock something.
Right. Could have helped her out. Like, multiverse travel is going to happen and this person has the ability to do it. We should mentor her and train her. Even if the Scarlet Witch comes in and maybe kills Xavier because he's distracted by helping her.
Right.
Right.
And that would have been a much better use of memory than the weird memory machines that say this drove me crazy. And this is kind of when the movie started losing me, because like I said, it's the and then problem. They walk through this new universe and then they just so happen to stand on these things that show your memories, and then just shows they the two memories.
Yeah, and it's
the memories. The memories don't service the plot in any way. So like the with Rachel McAdams, like it goes to show that Doctor Strange still loves her or whatever, but we already know that. That's information we already have, and for America with her moms, that is a completely useless scene unless they come back later.
And maybe they do in a version. Well, except for at the end, like, you're going to find them.
They probably will in another movie. And that's a problem, because it's, again, this movie, it's all business decisions, right? It's setting up things and whatnot. But if Professor Xavier could have gone in and seen that in her and then coached her, like, okay, like, why did the bee sting set you off to kill your parents? Essentially, right. They could have used that time to get a better character out of that, a better arc out of that.
Yeah. And I mean, when she's traveled through 78 worlds, I can't remember the number she says, but it's something around that. That's where you could have like a truly unique, diverse, and cool character who's taken the fun stuff from each dimension and owns it, right? So this person who travels multiverses should not be the most boring character. They should be the most interesting character of like, oh, and tell me about this world. And oh, and I got this from this world. And oh, in this world, this isn't a thing, but this is a thing,
give her more knowledge.
Yeah. She should have more knowledge. She should just be cooler. And I
even if she can't control it, she should know more about it.
Right. And she does know about some things, but I think they could have given her a better character. I thought the actress was really good. I liked her. I just wish that she should have been a bigger, cooler, more unique character. Because how could you not be when you've been through 78 multiverses?
Right.
Right. Or whatever the number is. But go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about more of what we liked. I can go off on things that bugged me all day, but yeah, what did you like?
I loved all the Sam Raimi-isms. Which is probably not a word, but man, when they started, buddy. Oh, when they started. So here's where I started to like, even though this movie's flawed, I still like it. It was the fight with himself when they start throwing musical notes at each other. That is so silly, but so awesome at the same time. Like, because most people are too scared to go there. Like, I'm not saying it's the coolest thing in the world. I'm saying that is a singular vision of someone like, what? And then like they start playing like Beethoven riffs and like cutting each other with notes.
I bet Danny Elfman loved doing that.
Oh, I bet he did. And that felt like Sam Raimi storytelling. Like, it also had this like weird echo of Sorcerer's Apprentice and Fantasia, like sorcerers fighting with music. I don't know. I was almost laughing out loud, but then I like choked on it a bit, and I'm like, no, this is amazing. And then from there, the idea that he possesses his own dead body.
Yeah, that was
and
cool.
then that was so cool. And just getting to play in a zombie world. And then you have the undead souls coming after you for violating a dead body and possessing it. And then their show Drag Me to Hell-ish. And yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah, I wanted more of that. Give me more.
Yep.
See, and the musical notes thing, while cool and while very Sam Raimi, to me, that was another and then thing. And then they fight with music. Like, how was that established, or did they mention anything about that? Or
I don't think they have to, because I don't. That's
all the things in that room to fight with. He's like, music,
but it made sense that he would have something like that in that room. Like having a grand piano with classical music on it feels like something that would be in a Doctor Strange house. Oh,
absolutely.
So I think it's fair game. I think they could have established it a little better, but I don't think it's 100% and then.
Right. It needs to be a therefore.
I'll meet you halfway. I think you can have some therefore, because you can say, no, that makes sense that would be in his house. And so what would you fight with? Papers flying, you see it. So I'll meet you halfway on that.
Fair enough.
What was something you loved?
Well, I mean, you said it, the Sam Raimi isms. We heard it in the sound, the sound design, like the weird noises going all around, the voices of the damned, the POV shots, things like that. I ate that all up. But I got to give a shout out, Bruce Campbell cameo.
Oh, so good.
I would have liked to see more, but I can always use more and more Bruce Campbell. I love the very end where he's like, "Ha! It's over," and because
it's like the show's over. Yeah,
we got the classic Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, like physical comedy where he's punching himself.
And it's not the first time he's punched himself, right? Like it's different reason behind it, but it's that callback that it was just perfect. Like there have been other Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi cameos in some of the other big movies he's done, and they've been fun, but they haven't had the callback to Evil Dead's as this did.
But here's something I want to throw out now that Bruce Campbell is in this movie. So there's the internet theory, and I think it's pretty well established. So Stan Lee in just about every Marvel movie, and there's the question: is Stan Lee a watcher? Is he one of the alien, ultra realistic beings that watch all of the multiverse stuff?
So what would? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, Bruce Campbell, he has now been in 3 Spider-Man movies as different characters, not the same character. And now he's been in an official Marvel movie as a different character. Is he a watcher? Can he take on that mantle?
I think so. I
would love that.
Yeah, I really hope that before Stanley passed away, that they shot like a thing where he's the watcher, and they have it on lock in their vault, and it's going to be like 10 movies from now where you just see him like as a watcher.
Yeah, they wouldn't need much. They just need to film him in front of a green screen and be like, "I'm the watcher," and then they can CGI and have him turn into a CGI big brain person.
Yep. Yeah. Anytime that someone plays multiple characters in the cameo role where they're basically watching, I like the idea that they're a watcher.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going through my notes here. Those were the 2 biggest things that I liked. Just the Sam Raimi cameo and the Sam Raimi isms in general. And like I said, I do think it was a fun movie. I did enjoy my overall experience, right? Like I said, I like the actors, I like the characters for the most part. I like the space it takes place in. And I think Marvel has done a really good job of keeping an overall stylistic look to their movies, something that DC and other other cinematic universes have had a really hard time with. But Marvel has stayed pretty consistent with their overall look and tone.
Part of that is the opposite of your complaint about, committee and there's a good thing to that as well, where you can keep some consistency in different things. But here's another problem. Like, it really felt like once the musical note fight happened, that it just got more and more Sam Raimi-ish. And I just really enjoyed all that. I wish we could have had more of that. I don't know, like a horror movie feel, like cosmic horror, psychological horror. Like, I like him waking up from a freaky dream. I wish he would have had more of those. Like, those were starting to have him go mad. Like, and then maybe you get America coming in just a little bit later. And I know that they wanted to introduce, Fantastic Four, X-Men, all these different characters. And it is a nice counterpoint to some of the dark stuff in it, to have this happy futuristic world that's very bright and like, oh, there are memories and there, you walk on red and just different things like that. But it was such a huge chunk of the middle of the movie that it takes you out of the horror aesthetic, which I think they were trying to make this feel like, and they did a good job at the end. And there was some at the beginning, but there was, I don't know if you would have went to a different world that was scarier, or you spent less time in that world. Yeah, I would have liked them to have been chased through more worlds. And then I think you could have you could have gotten all the stuff that you needed to get in with Professor X and the future world and all those people, but you could have controlled tone in the middle of the movie, where it feels like genre tone was going to Marvel as opposed to horror.
Yeah, I would have really, really respected it if, and I'm going to kind of contradict myself, I would have really respected it if they took a big chance in going near straight up cosmic horror, right? Like, they did change the tone in a way, and it would have been better if they had a good transition into it. But if they just didn't do what I've heard called Marvel safe, right, where it is that formula, like that would have been a unique direction.
Yeah, and I loved that they killed off all the superheroes in the Illuminati, but it's also that have your cake and eat it too, because none of them are really dead. They are in that multiverse, but who cares? We'll never go to it. We'll see them somewhere else. And
I think there's a big problem there. So the Illuminati that we have, Black Bolt, I guess he's in the Inhumans, which I haven't seen. I didn't like how he died. Like, I liked how he died. I didn't like that. Right. He's got this superpower where he's got to be very disciplined, and just this one thing happens to him and he totally loses his cool and blows his brain up. Right. Like, that seemed weird to me. The other problem, and it's more so for Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Professor X. So while we've technically seen them before in different iterations and different series or whatever, these are supposed to be our introduction to these characters in a way. And the fact that Reed Richards just gets unraveled and is completely ineffective, and that
he doesn't Professor even get a punch.
Yeah, like, to me, that makes me as an audience member go, well, I don't know if I want to see a movie with him in it if he's just going to lose. Like, they should have gotten some better punches in, like the Captain Carter. Like, at least she got in a couple good punches on her
before she was cut in half. Which was awesome. Yeah, I love that even in a PG-13 movie, they were able to get some really cool horror kills in. Yeah. But again, I'm watching it the whole time and I'm like, well, of course they have carte blanche, because they can do whatever they want because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, she's alive in the other universe where it matters. I got two more things.
All right.
One more thing, returning to the multiverse, Thanos. Where was Thanos? And here's something that I was thinking. My girlfriend pointed it out to me. She's like, why isn't Thanos in these multiverses? Because Doctor Strange looked through all of these different timelines or multiverses, kind of unclear on that, but Thanos wins like 5 million or 5 billion times out of one. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't that mean that even though there's an infinite number, right? There's an infinite number of ones.
Right.
There's also an infinite number of 5 million to one. So that means that it's a higher order of infinity. There are more realities.
There should
Thanos
be more
wins.
multiverses with Thanos in them than without. And it felt like we killed Thanos in every universe.
Yeah. And so, but we have that. We have like the Darkhold. It was destroyed in this universe, which was apparently like our normal universe, and it destroyed it throughout the multiverse. And I felt like that wasn't explained very well, that if you destroy the Darkhold here,
there should be things of certain consequence that happen across every multiverse, right? And that would ground the multiverse reality into stakes again.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so they say that the multiverse is at stake, but had we seen it, had we seen all of these different multiverses start getting that black floating goo in it or whatever,
right,
and it starts to unravel, and then they destroy the Darkhold, and
right,
then Wanda destroys the Darkhold.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing I have a problem with is they're like, how dare you walk in this multiverse? You're going to cause an incursion or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, but there were tons of people in No Way Home. And I mean, maybe it would have eventually, but they got it all sorted out. And what about Into the Spider-Verse? like, I don't know. I mean, like, it's bad, but is it that bad?
Yeah. People are going into multiverse all the time.
Right. And this person has
pretty common.
Yeah. Like maybe you stay there or you do too much or there's too many of you. Then I could start to see an incursion, but just like, no, you can't be here at all. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
so the last thing I'll say,
stakes. Yeah, go ahead.
The last thing I'll say, I think this is a chink in the Marvel armor. So something Stan Lee said when he was making comics that I think is just great wisdom is every comic is somebody's first comic. And we are to a point with Marvel movies. There's nearly 30 Marvel movies with TV shows and spinoffs and stuff. We have gotten movies to a place where they're like an ongoing soap opera of these characters, which I think is awesome. However, they're going to have a problem where people are going to go see these movies and then not come back or not go to see them to begin with because they're like, I don't have time to go watch 30 other movies. And so I don't want to be lost. I don't want to feel stupid. So they need to start figuring out how do we catch people up or how do we structure these in a way that you don't need to know anything else about what's going on. The way this movie starts looks good on paper, right? It should hit the ground running. But honestly, we start this movie already in progress. The movie is already happening when we start it. There's all this preamble to it that we missed out on. I'd really love to talk to somebody who hasn't seen WandaVision and see what their take on it is. Like if they're confused, I don't know. I think we're getting a glimpse of what is potentially a big problem for the mega franchise in general.
Yeah, I don't think they're there yet, but I think eventually they're just going to have to say, nope, I don't care. You're either going to like, you can't catch someone up for 30 stories before each movie. Like you can't spend the first 20 minutes of a new Marvel movie catching everyone up. It's just not possible. So you should catch them up, qua the storylines that are involved.
Right.
But
so how do they do that?
Right. And they did it a little bit. I mean, you have them talking like, I thought you were here to talk about me taking over the town. Nope, you made right by that. I guess you're not. That's how they took care of it. And it felt very clunky. And it felt like it's there because an audience might not know. And again, where do you err on that side? So
yeah, in comics, that's when they started putting things in the back of comics like here's what they're talking about. They started putting footnotes in comics, things like that, because of that, because it's this long soap opera.
You know what they should almost do? They should almost create a trailer before any Marvel movies that's a catch 'em up previously on Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's
the problem is they don't want to spoil stories that people might not have seen.
Right.
So, but and then, if you've already seen it, you don't have to, you come in after the trailer or
Or maybe that's a great way to start integrating cell phones into the movie going experience. Put the footnote into the cell phone.
Have like a QR code that you point at the poster and like, this is a little trailer to catch you up if you don't know anything about anything.
Right. So anyway, I think that's probably a good spot to leave. We've come up with some theories. We've come up with some innovations. We've talked about things that we like. We talked about things that we didn't like. That is our show. That's basically what we do every week. Next week, we actually have a show in the can. We are going to put onto YouTube our second show that we ever did. Dracula with Christopher Lee in it is what's coming up next. That'll be online, I believe, next Tuesday. And then we'll start getting back to sort of our regularly scheduled programming, I believe.
For the most part.
Yeah, that's all I have to say, Chris.
That's it, man.
You never get the last word. You get the last word.
We've told you what you think, but go watch this and let us know if we're totally wrong. Let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. Oh, watch our Spider-Man review. We've been compelled by Schlock, and we will see you later. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
Schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. I am compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock.